Good morning, everybody. My name is Tina Tokasia and I'm one of the brokers at HIA Insurance Services. I'll be presenting today's webinar on domestic building insurance, which is one of the services we offer here at HIA. We have a dedicated team here called the DBI warranty team that can service and support you with all your DBI domestic building insurance requirements. Just before we start the presentation, Just before we start the presentation, I would like to say a quick disclaimer that the information being provided today is general advice. So if you're wanting to obtain tailored information about your business, please feel free to contact our office so we can have a more personalised discussion about your needs and situation. So HIA Insurance Services. HIA Insurance Services is a joint venture between the Housing Industry Association, HIA, and the largest national industry association representing the residential construction industry in Australia, and Aon, a leading global professional services firm providing a broad range of risk, retirement and health solutions. This joint venture provides HIA Insurance Services with the unique opportunity to leverage the buying power, insurance governance and risk capability of Aon, as well as assessing the HIA and utilising their deep knowledge of the housing industry. Just some of the different, apart from DBI insurance, we also have the different types of insurances that can support your building business. They include contract works insurance, public liability insurance, cyber insurance, and management liability insurance. Again, if you'd like to hear more about these, please contact our office. DBI insurance. Oops. Okay, here it is. DBI insurance and the objectives of DBI. DBI provides cover for homeowners who are building or renovating in Victoria. Builders are required to purchase DBI on behalf of the homeowner for all domestic building projects over $16,000. In Victoria, this is a legal requirement. It is mainly to support and to ensure homeowners have the appropriate protections in place if the builder dies, disappears or becomes insolvent. DBI distributors. The Building and Plumbers Commission, known as the BPC and formerly the VMIA, is the state-owned and operated insurer of DBI. The BPC have 4 appointed distributors and HIA Insurance Services is one of them. At HIA Insurances, as your distributor, we will work with the builders to complete new and review eligibility applications for lodgement with the BPC. We will support your inquiries regarding the BPC and the application or certificate process. We have direct access to the BPC systems and underwriters, and we will assist with any project applications or certificates for lodgement to the BPC. Our dedicated team will help and support you with all of the requirements to do with DBI. How does it work? If you are a builder and want to get DBI through the BPC, you must first be eligible. Eligibility outlines the terms of approval to purchase DBI under certain conditions. It tells us the types of projects allowed to get insurance and the maximum of value for each project type. If we follow the flowchart, you will start by applying for eligibility. Once we have all the documentation, the BPC will conduct a financial assessment on the documentation provided. The BPC will hopefully approve the limits assigned. They will then issue you a pending letter of eligibility, which you will need to have your DBI license approved. Once you have your DBU license, or if you're a company, your CDBU license recorded, the BPC will then issue a letter of eligibility. Once you have your letter of eligibility, you will be given access to the BuildVic portal, which means you can now go ahead and purchase certificates of insurance for any job that you may have over $16,000. Once eligibility has been assessed by the BPC, they will provide an outcome and generate a letter of eligibility. The letter of eligibility will include your builder details along with your construction limits. There is a total construction limit, which in this example is $3 million. This means the total construction value that you can use at any one point in time. And then there is category limits, as indicated in this example, from C01 to C07. The category limits reflect the type of build. If we look at the slide, the bottom line is the total construction limit. That means in this example, the builder can take out policies for works up to the value of $3 million. If we look at the categories, there are 6 categories listed, and the builder can issue works in any of these categories. There is no need to have all of the categories. You would only request the ones that you would work within. The limits within the categories are the maximum. Therefore, under this example, C01, new single dwelling construction, the builder can only issue works up to $900,000. That could be for one dwelling at $900,000 or 2 dwellings at $450,000 each. So who are they assessing? The applicant is the business that you choose to operate through. So they are assessing the applicant on your application form. That is either a sole trader or a partnership. An individual obtains a DBU license, which is a Domestic Building Unlimited license, as a registered building practitioner. The network is represented by what is owned in the individual personal name. If the applicant is a company, a proprietary limited, the individual obtains the DBU and a company CDBU, so Company Domestic Building Unlimited license. The company is treated as a person and has its own assets. So what is the BPC assessing? The main items that they will assess is the financial health of the business, the building capability. This helps the BPC understand the risk of projects not being completed or being defective. Applying for eligibility, the BPC will consider the financial, the building history, that is the type of projects that you wish to take on, and the value of the projects and the project capability. This helps the BPC understand the risk of projects not being completed or being defective. Some of the things that we've noticed that they look for is the strong foundation, so equity and profits. Is the business profitable? How is the business managing workflow? They also look for availability of funds, equity to assist the builder's requirements. They also assess the business and not the ability as a builder. It's important to remember, and we say to all our clients, you can be the best builder, but you also need to be a very good business manager. Take details about what they assess. The BPC will assess each builder's past building performance, type and number of projects posed, technical and management skills, business history, financial history, and solvency. They may also check net tangible assets and turnover growth, shareholders' funds versus sales, profit margins, interest cover and cash flow, working capital, return on equity and assets, payment and collection cycles, and business structure and trading history. So eligibility status. If you're a new eligibility, we are talking about someone that's applying for new eligibility and entering the building industry. If we are talking about review eligibility, this is an existing builder wanting to apply for an increase to overall limit or category limits. It is important to remember if you are applying for a review of existing limits, the BPC will start again and conduct a full financial review. Sometimes the BPC will initiate reviews. Based on past applications, the BPC can initiate a full review in the following situations. Builder has referred a project they are wanting to undertake that exceeds their current limit. Builder has not undergone a full review in the last 12 to 24 months. Builder's license has been suspended by the VBA, and the BPC have been notified of ASIC of changes in directorship of a company. For example, a director has resigned or a new director has been appointed. They will also initiate a review, anything to do with an ATO, especially an ATO debt. So eligibility for a sole trader or partnership, how it all works. When applying for eligibility, the BPC will require a completed application form and a checklist of information which must be included in your application. We are unable to submit your application with all the documentation that's required by the BPC. This includes a fully complete application form with a statutory declaration signed by the registered building practitioner and an authorised witness, full and financial individual tax returns for the last 2 financial years, proof of any ownership of properties that may be listed on the application form, or a rates notice, current bank statements for personal cash holdings, a work in progress Excel spreadsheet, and a forecast of works Excel spreadsheets for any jobs they wish to insure or are thinking of insuring. If it is a company, very similar in terms of completing an application, a full application, rates notices, title of any properties that are listed, and bank statements, this time from the individual and the company bank statements. Some of the things to remember if you're applying as a company, working capital, what cash do you have in your business to support it? The BPC will focus on bank accounts, credit facilities such as an overdraft or a line of credit. If the funds are going to be transferred into a new entity, you really need to speak to a financial advisor about the possibility of any paid up capital injection that may be required or that you wish to introduce. They will also consider any equity held in the business. For example, what does the business own? Property, land, vehicles, plant and machinery. The other thing that they will really focus on is the business revenue and the profit margins. This won't apply to a new business, but for an existing business holding eligibility, the BPC will access the profitability of the business by reviewing the net profit margins and the gross profit margins. The next couple of slides are about the application form and how it must be filled in completely and without errors. The BPC are very strict about the application form where no errors, crossouts or markouts are to be on the form. If there is an error, they do need a signature and a date for every error that's on the application form. And as I mentioned previously, there is a statutory declaration at the end of the application form that must be signed by the registered building practitioner and the authorised witness. The first 2 pages of the application form are just about the form and a self-checklist to ensure that you've included all the documents before you send it through to us. Pages 3 and 4 are more about the legal entity type. So if you're a sole trader, a partnership, or a company, the BPC obviously need to know that. The ABN or ACN, if applicable, needs to be clearly marked and must be correct. Towards the end of the page, it refers to the taxation status for the sole trader. This is letting the BPC know if you are up to date with your ATO obligations. This is very important as they don't look favourably at an ATO debt. If you have an ATO debt, you must provide ATO payment plan and be up to date with all the payments. Last section on this page is the accountant details. If you are completing your own tax requirements or returns, then you can add your own details in this section. Similar thing on pages 3 and 4 for a company. Exactly the same. The ABN and ACN are required. Company taxation status is also required. And your application will be based on the company financials for the last two financial years. They will look at the performance of the last 2 years. Go to the next pages. Oops. Okay, next couple of pages, pages 4 and 5, are about the register builder. So if we start at the top of the page, they need to know who the register builder is. There might be a couple of directors if you are a company. So you need to ensure that you have ticked the RBP and complete all your details. Knowing your registration number is important, or if you're applying, then it is a pending registration number. This page is more about letting the BPC know if you already have your DBU license or you're proposing to get your registration. Similar with the company, the only thing to remember with the company is if there is a couple of directors, each director will have to complete these 2 pages. The next page is about the history and background. For example, if you've ever been involved in any business placed into external administration, liquidation, or receivership, it is important to provide as much information here if you have selected one or more of the yes questions to provide the BPC a better understanding of your history, and it will help them assess your application better and faster. If you have selected no and they undertake the assessment, and they discover that one or more of the questions should have been selected as a yes, they will come back requesting additional information and detailed information, which will delay your assessment and the eligibility process. And it may also impact the outcome of the assessment as well. If you have answered a yes to any of these questions, we will be talking to you before we submit the application to the BPC, just to ensure that we have all the information that will strongly support your eligibility application. The next page is about your limits. So what construction limits does your business require? When deciding on these limits, you need to ask yourself, what types of jobs do I intend on getting or quoting for? Will the jobs be new builds or small custom jobs, bathroom renovations, for example? Think about your forecast of works and what is coming up in your pipeline, or what you hope will be coming up in your pipeline for the next 12 months. What would be the maximum limit you would need according to the pipeline? Remember, it's important in this section to ensure you have what limits you think you may need for the next 12 months. The BPC will prefer to not review your increase until 12 months has passed. So a good example is in this example, the figure you note should represent the total value of works that you wish to undertake at any given time. For example, $1 million in this example means you can engage in projects worth $1 million simultaneously. This figure is not a one-time limit. As a project is completed, its value is restored to your available construction limit, allowing you to issue additional certificates of insurance or DBI and take on more projects. We've talked about category limits, but you also have the category values. There are 6 categories, and depending on your business, you can allocate required limits. This includes a new build, structural or non-structural. You do not have to add to all the categories. That will depend on your business and what you think your pipeline may look like within the next 12 months. Once your eligibility application has been approved, whether it's a new or review eligibility, your letter of eligibility will display all your limits, and it is what you use to renew your registration on a yearly basis. You are now ready to take out certificates of insurance. For every job over 16,000, you will need to take out a COI or certificate of insurance. Your building surveyor will require a copy, and the client will also receive a copy. Back to the application form. On page 8 of the application form, the statement of personal assets and liabilities. The BPC will take into account property and cash at bank. They do not normally take into account motor vehicle, share or crypto. As your distributor, we will conduct an internal review based on this page and with a focus on property listed and cash at bank. In terms of cash at bank, they will want to see 90 days of transaction to support any cash value that you've added on this page. Just as a reminder, our DBI team work every day with these applications, and when we do our internal reviews, we will discuss what is best to support your application. The next 3 pages of the application form are just about the terms and conditions. Just note the terms are information. There's no change in the circumstances, and they cannot be amended or changed at all. I've mentioned the statutory declaration throughout the webinar, and this is the last page of the application form. It is seen and treated as a statutory declaration. The BPC require this page to be handwritten and completed with accuracy and no errors, mistakes or crossouts. Once we complete the initial review, our team here at HIAIS and we have completed the initial review and we feel that it is correct and all the documents are there to support your application, we will then ask you to complete the statutory declaration page. As mentioned, it must be signed by an authorised witness. There is a number of occupations that fit the authorised witness criteria, and they include your pharmacist, accountant and police officer. Eligibility application process. How would the BPC assess this? There's a number of more information on the BPC website about their actual review process and information that is required for full review, so that they can have all the information at the one time. Anything that you need to do in terms of finance, we also say to our builders, please ensure you have had a chat to your accountant about the final position and discuss with them if your finances aren't strong, as they may impact the outcome of your application. Sometimes it may be best to hold off applying for an increase to your limits until the financials have improved. You should only be submitting an application to the BPC if you believe your financials support what you are seeking or the limits that you are seeking. If it doesn't support the limit that you are seeking, they may offer you something lower. or they may reduce your current limit or change the status from active to project, which may affect your business pipeline. In these circumstances, we always say to our clients and our builders to speak to their accountants before perhaps thinking about applying for eligibility or review eligibility. We're coming to the end of the presentation and would like to finish up with some common questions we receive about applications. Some of the most common questions include, what sort of financial information is required by the BPC? Okay, definitely the last 2 years' tax returns. We are now working towards 24 and 25. They are still accepting 23 and 24, but that won't be for much longer. So 24 and 25. If it's a company or trust, the financials again are for the last 2 financial years. If 25 is not ready, they will ask for interim accounts prepared by your accountant. Trading names, another common question, are not accepted anywhere on the application form. The ABN has to match exactly to the legal entity name. As I said, ABN and ACN must always be provided. All registered builders and directors must complete the asset and liability statement. So each partner and each director must fill in the asset and liability statement. All directors must sign the documentation. That includes, they do ask for director signatures on all financial documentation. So the last 2 years of company tax returns, all directors must sign and date each document. Any change to the application form requires an update to the statutory declaration. The authorised witness that signs the declaration means that they have reviewed the application and all is in order. If we come back 2 days later and there is a change, we start all over again with the stat dec. Tax returns are only acceptable. We have the question of, is a notice of assessment acceptable? They are not acceptable by the BPC. Bank transaction listings, there is no need to send us the last 12 months. The BPC will only accept the last 90 days of transaction for each bank statement or each account that you provide. If it's a company, or that includes the company bank account. If directors or as a sole trader, you list on page 7 of the assets and liabilities that you own a home and the home is in a joint name, which may be your partner, the BPC, just as information, will only take into account 50% of the value of that asset or that equity. So we've come to the end of the presentation. There's lots of information there about the eligibility process and what is required by the BPC. We have a dedicated team here that will help you and support you through the whole process. A lot of the times it's tricky just getting all the information that the BPC required together. Once we have it all together, our team here will do an initial review and keep in constant communication with you about documentation to ensure we only submit what is required by the BPC, and to also discuss how it supports, if it favourably supports your application. Along with the DBI team, we do have a team of brokers who will happily discuss any contract works or public liability insurance needs that you require for your business. I might give you all a couple of minutes just to write any questions you may have in the chat box, and I'll try and answer them as best that I can. If you've got any questions, just add them to the chat box, please. I can't see any questions, so I'm hoping that I've answered all your questions in the webinar today. If not, please contact our office. Any of our friendly team are more than happy to help you with any insurance or business requirements that you need for your business. Like I mentioned before, we have a DBI team that is doing this all the time, so we can help and support at any time. Thank you everyone for listening, and I hope it's been helpful. Thank you.